Hello, my name is Kelly at Kelly's Tutoring, and in today's video we're going to look at how you can move forward from your A-level and GCSE results. Now, many teenagers have been on quite a tumultuous journey, to say the least, with the upheaval of how you are going to be graded for your 2-year course. Now, many will be relieved, feeling quite relaxed, and frankly elated that their teachers' predicted grades are going to be used as the final grade, and that will be put on the certificates as proof of what they believe you would have received had you sat the exam. And for many, however, they are still disappointed, dismayed, and disheartened. And that's because they don't feel their teachers' grades truly reflect what they're capable of. And I completely understand wherever you are in terms of your feelings. And that's okay, by the way. However you're feeling is okay. And let's face it, let's have a look at what's been happening. The GCSE and A-level course are now 2 years. So you are expected to work consistently and constantly for 2 years. And then you would have had a mock exam in preparation for the real thing. And one of the problems or one of the issues is that this is not standardized. So for some teenagers, they may have looked at the mock as a way of seeing where their weaknesses lie, and so maybe didn't revise or study as much as they should have because they were hoping to see what was missing in terms of their knowledge, the gaps, and then hone in on that information before the real thing, rather than trying to learn everything at once. Others may have only been tested on a small part of the final exam. Perhaps you had some coaching from your teachers as they wanted to make you feel as comfortable as possible before the real thing. And others may have treated it completely like it was a real thing, studied all hours that were possible, and were made to sit the whole thing as if it were an exam. So with such a disparity in how they were sat, some of you may be feeling it's not fair. When you get to sit the exam, you feel like it's in your hands, right? You feel like you have some control over it. Whereas you may be feeling powerless because you haven't sat an exam that you've been preparing for 2 years. And I want to say that it's absolutely okay if you feel angry, if you feel bitter, disappointed. However, those feelings aren't going to allow you to move on. It's not going to empower you to really take control of the situation right now. Now, of course, you can appeal and see if your appeal is successful, then your grades will be changed. Now, even if you go through that process, there is still a chance that they won't be changed. So then what? What do you do? Well, as I say, however you're feeling is fine. There's nothing wrong with how you're feeling, and to be frank, I don't blame you. I don't think anyone would blame you. But sensationalizing it in the papers as it has been, I want to apologize to you, teenagers, because, we're reading stories of, oh, teenagers' life is ruined because of this. And you may feel like that. And that's okay, but it's not the truth. It's not the reality. And if you indulge that, then you will feel stuck, disempowered, powerless, and a victim. And none of you are. It's not your fault. And as I say, however you're feeling is absolutely fine. So how can we then move forward from this? Well, as I said, one, you can appeal it, and you may have your grades overturned, and you may get the result that you feel really, truly reflects your abilities. But there is a possibility that it's not. So the first thing I'd recommend is looking at what's so. Get rid of all the story. And how do you do that? Well, first of all, consider this. What you consider a good or a bad grade is all relative. It's all relative. What is good to one person isn't necessarily so for another. What is bad for one isn't bad for another. So we have to get our heads around the fact that actually it's meaningless. We as a society decide and choose that this means this. But in actuality, it doesn't mean that. There are many people who don't pass on an exam, or perhaps don't do as well as they think they should, who have actually more working knowledge than somebody who achieved higher. So it doesn't necessarily reflect in its entirety one's knowledge. And as I say, the grades themselves are an invented concept. So try and consider that. Secondly, look at what's so. What's so is that you have sat on a 2-year course. There's been a global pandemic. You've been unable to sit the exam. Teachers have used different factors to create a grade for you. The government then did something which maybe lowered your grade or gave you the grade in accordance with your teachers. They then decided that this was unfair because of the pressure. I had to catch myself there. Pressure is a story. Because of the voices raised from different communities, they then decided that it was best if the teachers' predicted grades stood for the actual grades, and then that's what's being used now as the final grade. So can you see, when you break it down to what's so, you can now deal with the situation in an empowered way without any story. And it's hard, even I slipped, because we tell stories all the time, and it's so ingrained in us, especially with something as emotionally charged as exams and results. So break it down and get behind it. The next thing you can do is consider this. Had you sat the exam, you might have felt better because you feel like you would have done better and it's in your control, in your hands. But say you sat the exam and you hadn't got the grade that you wanted. What would you have done then? What would you have done to move forward? I think it's really important to consider that, because it gets you to see actually what is really important to you. Because if it is passing that exam or getting the desired grade, then you probably want to resit it, right? And you can resit the exam. That's not off the table. So you could potentially resit the exam. Perhaps you would have done something else. Maybe you would have gone on to a different course or a different training program, or gone into employment. So this is a great opportunity for you to assess, well, what is important to me? Why was this important to me? And if you can understand your why, it will allow you to move forward in a powerful way. Now, I know that a lot of us still have a lot of story around this, but let me give you 3 great anecdotes, 3 great stories of people who, in their opinion, didn't do so well in their A-levels. Claire Balding, who is a phenomenal journalist, she actually achieved an A in English, but she failed her history and Latin. She went for an interview at Cambridge University, and she completely and utterly performed terribly awful. Those are her words, not mine, by the way. She didn't do so well, and she was rejected. So she had a choice to make, and she chose to take a 2-year gap. She continued her studies to up her grades, and she did horse riding, which she's passionate about and it really inspires her. She got some coaching around interview techniques, and she reapplied for Cambridge University, and she was accepted. So our mindset that, top universities won't like a retake or won't accept me if I've not done well, are not true. It's unfounded. Cambridge University is one of the UK's most prestigious universities, and she was accepted onto it. Now, another argument is, especially for medical students, they often think, well, if I don't get the grades, I can't go into med school. But again, that's not true. Dr. Mark Lifego, in his words, he did so badly, his parents cried. He didn't pass his exams at all. He got 2 Fs and an E and a D. I think he did 4 A levels and he got Fs and Ds and Es. His parents cried. He's quoted as saying that failure was his closest companion. But in light of that, not doing well, he never doubted his abilities. And at 37, he got his PhD. He is now one of the most renowned neurophysiologists. So even if you feel like you've not done well, it doesn't mean you cannot pursue your dreams of med school. And then finally, Tiny Temper. Tiny Temper wanted to be an accountant, believe it or not. He wanted to be an accountant. That was his dream job. And he ended up getting 2 Bs and a D. He didn't get the grade. He didn't get the grade he needed to continue his academic career in that field. So he was at a junction. He had a choice to make, to resit it and continue studying and see if he could, or do something else. And he chose to do something else. He was selling double glazing windows. And he was using that income to fund his passion for music. So had he not done well in his A levels, we wouldn't have one of the greatest musicians. And it was because of his mindset. He didn't stay disempowered. He didn't tell himself he wasn't good enough. He used this opportunity to discover what was really important to him. And music was really important to him. And so he created a path that would allow him to really pursue this passion to its fullest. So no matter what you want to accomplish, you can, but it starts with you taking responsibility. And that's another thing I'd like to ask you to try on, is taking responsibility. Now, responsibility again has become this dirty word of blame, and that's not the case at all. Responsibility doesn't mean blaming. It means being in control of how one responds. It means taking ownership of your responses. It doesn't make anything okay. It doesn't justify anything. It just means that you are now empowered rather than being a victim. So how do you want to respond in light of what's happened? Do you want to give up? Or do you want to keep going? And that choice is yours. So choose how to respond. You can resit, you can appeal, you can try on something else. And that's the beauty. You have so many great opportunities at your fingertips. You can reset and go on to university, go into employment, go into sponsored degrees, higher apprenticeships, internships, volunteer work. You can even start up your own business as an entrepreneur. So really take the time to really see what motivates you, what inspires you, what do you really want to do? And then think about, well, what steps do I need to take right here, right now to achieve that? So, wherever you are in your academic journey and however you're feeling, it's okay. I can promise you that you will be fine. It's not all over, no matter what grade you have received. You have the power to do something about it and to create a future that you really want and really love. So, please subscribe to the channel, drop me a follow, and comment. I would love to hear where you're at. I'd love to hear what you're up to, how you feel, what you're thinking. And if you need any advice, then just please let me know in the comments. Because you should feel proud of yourself, no matter what, because you are a generation that have been studying for their finals during a global pandemic. And I'd like to leave you with this. Everyone will be understanding and compassionate. Because I don't know how you feel, but I'm completely blown away by the response of our different communities in society. As I say, the A-level and GCSE students have to sit a 2-year course now, and then everything is made really dependent on the final grade, a final exam. And they weren't able to sit it, you weren't able to sit that exam. And so teachers were entrusted to create a grade for you based on homework, schoolwork, coursework, mocks, in-class assessments. Something that they thought would really reflect their students' abilities. And that was overturned by the government. And yes, it's now been put right. But it was because of the voices, the collaboration between students, parents, teachers, head teachers, the mayors of cities, all came together. Oxford University, another prestigious university, one of their colleges, Worcester College, actually stated that they were going to accept students based on their offers that they originally put forward, regardless of the results that came out, because they felt, well, actually, the grades aren't going to be telling them anything new that they hadn't already, known when creating the offer. So, and Oxford has a reputation of being very robust, very strict in its admission. So if they can show leeway, if they can show support and solidarity and compassion, then there's no reason to think that no one else will either. Employers, universities, colleges, everyone is going to be understanding and empathetic. So please take heed in that and let me know your thoughts, your feelings, your opinions, and be proud of yourself and really consider what it is that you want. Thank you. Bye-bye.